G'day Hammerheads, welcome back to the bench, and we have a very special episode today because she has finally arrived, the Hilti Nuron in Australia. Let's see how she goes. So there must have been a backlog in the inverters this year because this little fella has taken about a year to get down under after it was released in, other markets. So I'm very happy to finally have this item in my hot little hands. I gotta tell you, she is a real beaut. In fact, I'm gonna do this video in a bit of a reverse order today because there are so many little design features I'm gonna geek out about. I'm just gonna throw that all at the end and do the specs and the performance testing up front. And of course, you got to compare it to the old version. So here we have the venerable TE4A22. So this guy's been around since about 2013. So it's a 10-year-old model now. Yeah, really looking forward to seeing how they turn out. And let's just dive in and compare the specs. So the old one is designated TE4A22 and the new one is TE422 Nuron. And current prices are $591 dues versus $543. So the new guy, the brushless, is actually a little bit cheaper. Nicely done, Hilti. The weight, 2.6 kilos versus about 2.4. So new guy is a little bit lighter. Capacity. Now, I'm not sure if this is a typo or what, but they reckon the Nuron is 28mm capacity compared to the 18 of the old version. And you may have seen my attempt at drilling with 28mm. It does do it, but like technically, yes, it can, but any rotary hammer kind of can drill much bigger than its capacity if you just give it enough time. So they do say the optimum range is up to 14mm. Impact energy 2 joules versus 2.3. So impact energy gives us a clue about, how big the capacity really is. So why don't we take a look at who else has a similar impact energy. So the Makita, that's the 24mm Makita, that's 2 joules. 24mm Metabo 2.2. 26mm Milwaukee 2.3. Whereas a 28mm, this big Hikoki here, 3.2 joules. So yeah, I guess 2.3 seems a little low for 28mm drilling, but realistically it looks like it would be a solid 22mm or a 24. Impacts per minute, 5,200. And so the impact power is 10,400 versus 11,960. RPM's the same at 1050. Let's check those revs. Oh, listen to that brushed glory. So just over 1050, about 1060 there. And about 1010, and boy, don't they sound different. And it is 2 modes, so drill only and hammer drill. And you'll note the hammering happens while we're dry drilling there. So Nuron, also 2 mode, but if we set to hammer drill mode, sounds the same. So that's actually just the motor sound there. She doesn't start impacting unless you've actually got something in there to press against the striker. Oof. So really interesting sound coming out of that motor. I don't have another tool that sounds quite like that. So maybe one day I'll have to crack her open and see what's going on. But for now, let's get drilling. As usual, the first test is 12 by 80mm speed drill into 32 MPa concrete. Alright, in the 12mm speed drill, the new Hilti came in 9.57 seconds, which is about 1.5 seconds or 12% faster than the old Hilti 10.88. Interestingly, the Nuron was just behind this 26mm rated hammer, just in front of another 26mm rated hammer back here, and of course the Teal Terra. This is another tool that punches well above her weight, but if we look at the rest of the pack, you got the 22mm here, this guy's 24-ish. She's looking pretty solid. All right, and next up we've got the max capacity of the old drill. So 28mm, I'm not sure about that. I did try and it didn't work all that well at all. So For this video, this head-to-head, I'm just going to use the same drill bit as this guy's max capacity, so that's 18 mil. So if there is another size you want me to try, just let us know in the comments. I reckon 22 would be a really good max capacity for this guy. But hey, that's going to be for another time. Right now, let's see how they go with the 18 mil. Same concrete, same depth. So in the max capacity kind of test, the Nuron came in just a smidge in front of the old Hilti, 26.71 seconds versus 28.7. So out of this bunch here, the Nuron was closest to this one here in impact force. So that one was drilling 26 mil. So that should give us an idea of what the Nuron would do in a 26 millimeter drill. But honestly, I reckon it's more like a 22 realistically. So probably about a minute. And to see how those motors go just in drill only mode, I do like to try and do some kind of normal drilling. So we got some pine, 25 mil speed bit, and a little adapter like that. Let's see how quickly they can get through 75 mil, or about 3 inches of pine. And drilling through that pine, we had the old Hilti in front, 3.4 seconds, versus the Nuron at 3.72. So this was an interesting test. It does feel like the old one has more kind of brute torque, more power going on from that motor. Partly because it's an older style brushed motor that just doesn't stop. I think they're trying to make the Nuron a little bit safer because it did actually cut out or stall a few times during this test, so I did have to drill a few more holes with the Nuron there. And I'm not sure if that's a feature or if that's just, you know, the motor stalling. But realistically, for concrete, it's not that much of a problem. But, you know, if you are actually going to be doing bigger spade bit sizes with this little drill, I mean, I wouldn't really do that too much, but, you know, you'll get there. And you may have noticed I've got this little thing over here. This is not actually a battery, but a battery adapter. So this guy allows you to use your Nuron batteries with your old A22 tools. And it's interesting looking with that on there. It's quite a hefty unit, but if we power it up, and if we check the revs with this thing on, a tiny bit faster. And just out of interest, let's see how these two compare with the old 12 mil speed drill. So with that Nuron battery on there, the old Hilti did 10.61, just a curly one in front of its old performance 10.88. So in the ranking, that does put it a little bit ahead. But if we do some sneaky stats on those timings, then we actually see from a T-test that they are not significantly different. So that means they're basically the same for all intents and purposes. And I do apologize for dropping stats on you like that. I'll put up a trigger warning next time. So this adapter, BA22, it's quite an interesting unit. It's not just a passive adapter, it's actually got an on switch, it's doing something inside there, and it's got this little indicator up here which tells you if the things aren't compatible together. So for instance, if I try and charge a Nuron battery on there, it'll go, nah. And if we check the voltage output of this, so we got about 24.5, which is about the same as the old battery. Okay, and about the same as the Nuron too. So interestingly, the polarity on these is reversed. Positive is on the left and positive is on the right of the A22. And unlike these cheap aftermarket adapters that I use sometimes, they've only got the 2 prongs, the actual, you know, driving voltage, whereas this one's got all 5. And it's labeled T, so I guess that's the thermocouple, and then D and D, so whatever those guys are. So this guy here is a pretty cool unit. I just got it to see, you know, how it compared Yeah, really handy thing to have if you've got a bunch of the old A22 tools. All right, guys, so let's do a deep dive into the rest of the design features that I'm picking up out of this. Starting with the box. So the box actually comes with this angled tab on here. So it just makes it a little easier to get back in. Haven't seen that before, thought it was real neat. So the standard kit for this tool just has some grease, the depth rod and stuff. So a little cloth, nice to see. You used to get that with a lot of rotary hammers, but you don't anymore. Bit of grease too. This stuff is actually sort of black almost, some crazy molly grease, I guess. And the Nuron depth rod, look at that thing. It's fully ribbed for my convenience all the way down. Came in its own little bag, all oiled up. On the handle we have this fairly cool sliding release mechanism. So trigger down there where you're holding the drill, releases that up there. This guy just slides right in. And it's really solid. It's real easy to release and move. And I know I'm probably the only guy on the internet going on about the bloody depth rods on these things, but these are really important for me to do my drill timing. I use the depth rods in the speed drill tests. All the speed drill tests are done by the depth rod. Probably important for a lot of you out there as well. And I gotta say, this is the only one that I fully trust to just, set and leave in position. Just about every other bloody drill I've got, I gotta mark them, I gotta hold them in with cable ties. I've got to make sure they're not going to bloody move while I'm doing these speed tests. But this guy, you can set it and it stays. And I've got to say, industry leading depth rod. All the rest, big rubbish. You'll notice that they're about the same size, like the same footprint, but the Nuron is just tighter fit around all the internal components. And so this doesn't really reduce the overall footprint that much. It probably does make it a little bit better for just fitting into various places. Without the batteries though, you can see the Nuron is a fair bit shorter in the bottom here. So the Nuron actually has vibration control as well. So it's got the springy handle, but it's also got active vibration control on the inside. So that's this counterweight thing. We've seen that on a few other big drills before. This isn't a really big drill. You don't really need that, but Hilti's top of the range, so they're just going all out for you. I really like the smooth handle on this one. And it's got a little bit more of a textured grip on here. Same really nice molding that you can't even feel really where the rubberized part ends. A little bit more grip on there, real nice to hold. So ventilation on the Nuron starts all the way down the bottom here. So as the air flows through, it passes over all the power cables, the controller, all the way up to here. And it actually exits up around the actual hammer mechanism area up here, which is interesting because not many other hammers bother cooling the actual metal parts inside the hammer area. Usually the air just will cool the electronic parts and they just leave the metal stuff up the front to get hot because who cares? But you know what? Hilti's got a 20-year warranty on this thing, so they want it to last. And that's similar to the old one. You can see the aspiration in there and then coming out around the gearbox up here. So let's look at the battery. This thing looks like a tank from a 90s video game. So once again, it's got a very form-fitting kind of case, but then it's also got a big bumper section around here. So I bet that's awesome for drop protection, but also because the battery is the main standing surface for the tool itself. On the Nuron, the battery release actually ejects the battery, which I love. It's a bit longer and thinner than the old battery, much shorter, and a smidgen lighter. So to give you an idea of the effort they're going to in building these things, see this lettering here, that's not written on there, that's actually molded in, which is, a little bit more effort, a little bit more cost to make, and it just sort of shows what Hilti's going for, They're just going for top quality sort of stuff. And interestingly, the batteries, so this is the 85 battery, so that's 85 watt hours. They've chosen to go watt hours as their main designation instead of amp hours, like with the old one, and like pretty much every other tool maker. So in amp hours, that is 3.95, so it's like a 4 amp hour battery. But this one's model number is B22-85, so 85 watt hours. Interesting move by Hilti. I'm not sure why they do that. I suspect they're going to go for bigger multiplex kind of things in future where watt hours are going to be more relevant. because if you're talking about the same voltage, amp hours is industry standard. You want to do watt hours when you're talking about the absolute amount of energy in the thing. So I have a feeling they're going to start stacking these up, doing, you know, multiple batteries, changing voltage, that sort of thing in future. Now the Nuron battery platform is meant to be real smart, so I guess good power management electronics, that kind of thing. One thing I have seen though is the battery has a health indicator, so that's your just power level right there, as pretty much every other battery has now. But if we hold it down, she'll do a little dance, and that tells us, so one light, that tells us that the battery can remain in use. All LEDs show in sequence, followed by one LED showing constantly green. Means you got a good battery. If it does the little dance and then one flashes yellow, that means go get it checked. And I think for a battery, it's pretty unique to actually have different colors on the LEDs on the battery itself. Apparently they've also got red in there, which is if it's locked. So you can lock them via the app, I suppose. So very clever stuff going on in there. Hilti also has a few apps that let you do near field communication with your tools. There's Bluetooth, there's all sorts of stuff. So there you go, battery status, good. And honestly, they're not that expensive, but if you do find the price a little intimidating, Hilti has actually got this AR app, so augmented reality. So let's take a look at this thing in AR. Let's go that battery. There you go. Beautiful, look at that. There you go, there's a fake one and a real one. Go figure. Computers, huh? How about that? Interestingly, the Hilti tools have more pieces on the case. It's not just your standard two-piece clamshell like a lot of the tools. We got one piece at the front here, piece at the top, piece at the back, and then a couple of pieces for the handle and stuff. So that kind of thing, it's going to add to manufacturing costs. So another reason why Hilti does cost a little bit more, but it's also going to mean it's easier for them to service. So they do have the 20-year warranty, they do have the limited price servicing, all that kind of stuff. So that's the kind of thing they're going for. They're really just going for tool health and longevity and stuff like that, because that's just Hilti's angle. That's why basically they're the best. Not necessarily the most powerful, not the most affordable. They're not for everyone, but they are making easily the best rotary hammers that I've ever used. There might be a couple of other primo brands out there, but honestly, I can't see Fine matching this in overall quality. So anyway, now the Nuron charger, pretty basic. This is just a little compact charger, but one thing I really like about that, it's got the bloody mounting holes on the outside. No measuring or nothing, you just whack it on the wall, screw it straight on. Why? Why does it take till 2023 to have that? Or 2022, I guess. All right, hammerheads. Well, it's been a long video, but this has been a bloody long time coming as well. I am hardly Hilti's target market. You know, they want big companies where time is money. They just want to keep tools in hands, basically. And yeah, that does happen a fair bit around my place too. But anyway, I'm very happy to have gotten one of these. I'm super excited to try it out. And of course, if there's anything else you want to know about these amazing little tools here, let us know. I will try and get, you know, as many other Hiltis as I can as usual. But, well, you know, like and subscribe and we'll try and make that happen together. So anyway, that'll be it from me and the gang. Hilt on, guys. Hilt on. Yeah, whatever. She works great.